All right, chapter 6 has 4 sections in it. We're going to do 6.1 and 6.2. It's law of sines, law of cosines. It's a review from geometry. And then 6.3 and 6.4 talk about vectors. So that might be new with you guys, vectors and dot products and stuff. But today's lesson, we're going to pare down into 2 sections. All right, we're going to do the first part today, second part tomorrow. Your web assign is not due until Wednesday morning. I do suggest that you start on it now so you don't have everything to do. But tomorrow's lesson will only be like an example or 2 just to show you. But when we are talking about the law of sines, law of cosines, okay, we're talking about triangles that are not right triangles. If you have a right triangle, you can use the Pythagorean theorem to find out side lengths and stuff like that. We are talking with law of sines and law of cosines with oblique triangles. They're triangles that have no right angles. So when you see the word oblique for oblique triangles, that means they just don't have any right angles. Now understand, when you have triangles and they're labeled, if there are capital letters represent angles. You see that? Capital letters represent angles. And lowercase represents sides. And we're going to talk about angles and their corresponding sides. What that means is like, look, here's angle A. What side is right across from angle A? Side A. Here's angle B. What's right across from angle B? Side B. Here's angle C. What's right across from angle C? Side C. Does that make sense? So you're going to use the law of sines and law of cosines to find corresponding sides and angles. This is really, really, really simple. This first part especially is really simple. It's just a matter of knowing how to use your calculator and stuff like that. If you don't know what mode you're in, I will show you how to fix it, but it is important that you're in the right mode. All right, we're going to talk about some different cases. These are the different cases. Sometimes you're going to be given information and it's 2 angles and a side. All right, if they give you 2 angles, you can find the third angle, because how many angles are in one triangle? How many degrees, I should say, sorry. How many degrees are in a triangle? 180. So if I know 2 of the angles, I can add them up and do what? To find the third one. Subtract from 180, okay? So that's an easy case. When they give you 2 angles and they say, okay, figure out the whole triangle, find all the other sides and stuff like that. When they give you 3 sides, that's an easy thing. And when they give you 2 sides and an angle, where the problem lies and what we're going to do tomorrow is something called the ambiguous case, because sometimes they can give you information and 2 triangles could possibly be formed. That's called an ambiguous case. So that is when we're going to have to check. I'll show you how to identify when you have to check and stuff like that. So in an example, you will be given, they might tell you the sides and angles. They might draw a picture. If there is not a picture, I suggest that you guys draw one. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about today is the law of sines. Here is the formula for the law of sines. Side A over sine of angle A. Side B over sine of angle C, or side C over sine of angle C. These are proportions, guys. You're always going to be given one. You're always going to be given one angle and its corresponding side. So, or you got to figure it out. So that's what you are trying to find in order to use the law of sines. As long as you keep sides and angles together, like if you want sides on top, angles on the bottom, that's fine. If you want to flip it and do angle on top, side on the bottom, same thing. Just keep all of the angles in the same spot and all of the sides in the same spot. Does that make sense? All right, let's do some examples because it's much easier when you guys have examples. All right, you have an example like this, and it's going to say either find the remaining angles and sides, or it's just going to say solve the triangle. So you have to figure out, first of all, what you're looking for. All right, what are we looking for here? We need angle A, right? We need side C, and we need side A. You guys agree? Okay, well, how can I figure out what angle A is? How many degrees are in one whole triangle? 180. So if I know one angle has 102.3 and one has 28.7, can I figure out what the missing one is? Yes, you're going to take 102.3 plus 28.7, and get what? Is it 131? 131. Okay. So what do I do with that 131? I'm going to say 180 minus 131, and I get what? 49 degrees. Okay. Is it important to have a degree sign? Yes. So angle A is 49 degrees. If you want to write it inside the triangle right here, feel free. You're more than welcome to. Now, what you need to do in order to solve the rest of the triangle, I need to find two sides that we're missing. In order to use the law of sines, you have to have an angle measure and its corresponding side length. So let's look at what we have here. Do I have an angle measure and the side across from it? Yes. What information do I have? For B, right? Do you guys agree with me that you have the angle measure of B and you have the side length of B? So that's the proportion that you're going to use. I like to put angles on top. So I'm going to write the sine of 28.7 over, how long is it? 27.4 equals. Now you pick what you want to find. You want to find side A or you want to find side C? You tell me. It doesn't matter. The difficulty is the same. You want to find A? Okay, so what goes on top? Sine of what? What's angle A? 49. Do we know what side A is? No. Once you have your proportions set up, how do we solve proportions, guys? Cross multiply. I would not do anything in your calculator till the very end. So I'm going to write, okay, this is 27.4 times the sine of 49 equals little a times the sine of 28.7. Don't do anything in your calculator yet, so you can get the most accurate answer. But I want to get little a all by itself, so what do I need to do? I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 28.7. So this is where your calculator comes in. In your calculator, you literally type in 27.4 times sine 49 and then divided by sine 28.7. Tell me what you guys get. So 43.06, say? Okay, 43.4. You will be told what to round to. 2 decimal places, 1 decimal place, whatever. But one thing we are missing is what is the side length measured in? Feet. So then you need to say feet. That's it. So now that we know what side A is, what's the other side we're missing? See? All right, go back to the original proportion that they gave us. They originally gave us that the sine of 28.7 over 27.4. Now we're going to find C. So what goes on top? Sine of what? 102.3 over little c. And then how do we solve this? How do you solve a proportion? Cross multiply. 27.4 times the sine of 102.3 equals c times the sine of 28.7. And then the last thing I need to do, divide both sides by the sine of 28.7. Now, where do we mostly make mistakes? We will, instead of 28.7, you write 27.8, something silly like that. But for the most part, just get your proportion set up and then cross multiply. So if you do this in your calculator, and if you're not getting the same answer, that's okay. Let me know and we can troubleshoot. I'm sure it's just the calculator error. But 27.4 times sine of 102.3 divided by sine 28.7. What'd you get? 55.74 what? But feet, right? Perfect. Perfect. That's it. The law of sines is just taking a side length and its corresponding angle, setting up the proportion, and then figuring out what you're missing. All right, now this, again, this we're going to talk about tomorrow, something called the ambiguous case. We're going to skip these slides. But sometimes you're given information. Like when you're given two angles, There's only one triangle possible, but sometimes there's going to be where you plug in the information in your calculator, tells you error because the information given will not form one triangle. Sometimes it'll form just one, sometimes it'll form two. So we're going to do that tomorrow. But here's the word problem, all right? A pole is tilted towards the sun at an 8-degree angle from vertical. It casts a 22-foot shadow, the angle of elevation, blah, 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 blah. They have everything written in here for you, so you guys don't even have to draw the triangle. So let's talk about what we have here. All right, I know that side length C is 22, right? Agreed? All right, what is angle B? What is this angle right here? This whole angle B is what? It's what? 98. Why are you guys saying 98 degrees? Because it's tilted. You see how it's tilted a little bit? It's tilted a little bit towards the sun there. So if I know that angle A is 43 and angle B is 98, what do I know about angle C? How can I figure out angle C? What's 98 plus 43? What is it? 141. All right, so now let's take 180 minus 141, and how big is angle C? All right, angle C is 39 degrees. Perfect. Angle C is 39 degrees. How many degrees are in one whole triangle, guys? 180? So if you're given 2, add them up, subtract from 180. So now if we're going to find the missing sides, let's set up 2 law of sines. What side length do I know? C. What angle do I also know? C. Do you see how that's our corresponding? Those things we know both about. So you just say sine of 39 over 22. And now we can find each of the missing sides. What do you guys want to find first? Want to find A? So what's the sine? What's A? 43 over A. How do we solve a proportion? Cross multiply, so 22 times the sine of 43 equals A times the sine of 39. Divide both sides by. Perfect. What does side A equal? So A is 23.8. What are we measuring in feet? Okay. And again, on your test or quiz, it'll tell you exactly what's around to. So now, guys, help me find out the missing piece. I have A. I know C. What am I missing? Okay. So set up the proportion for B. How do I set this problem up? That's the hardest part. Sine 39 over 22 equals. Yep, sine 98 over B. And then we, again, cross multiply. So 22 times the sine of 98 equals B times the sine of 39. And what do I do to both sides? I'm going to divide by the sine of 39. So how long is B? 34.6 feet. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so I just took out the ambiguous case, guys. I took out the ambiguous case. We're going to do those tomorrow. That's the second part. But not a majority, but part of your homework you can get done today. Let's talk about area of an oblique triangle. If you guys had a right triangle, what was the area formula? 1/2 what? Base times height. Base times height divided by 2. You can't use that because you don't have a base and a height with an oblique triangle. Oblique meaning they do not have any right angles. So there is a formula that you guys are going to be given or that you can use to find the area of an oblique triangle. Here's the formula. Now, it's all the same thing. It just depends upon what you're looking for. If you have both sides B and C and angle A, then you set up like this. If you have these two sides AB and angle C, or AC and angle B. What it is you need 2 sides and the angle in between. I like to write it like this. I personally don't like the 1/2 out in front. But what you need in order to solve these is you need two sides. Write this down. 2 sides and the angle in between. Has to be the one in between. Very important that you guys locate the correct information. It's 2 sides and the angle that's in between. So sometimes they're going to give you all the information you need. Sometimes you're going to have to do a little work to figure it out, but you have to, if I were you, if you don't not given a picture, I would draw one. Do you see how they have drawn a picture for you? Do you see that they have given you 2 sides? Here's a side here and a side here. And what do you notice about side C? Where is it located? It's in between those 2. All right. Very rarely do you get a problem that's straightforward. Sometimes they'll give you, you know, something over here is like 115 meters. And you need to know, do I need that 115? If this case was given like this, would you use 115 for the area? No, because what do you need for the area formula? 2 sides and the angle where? In the middle. So the way that you would solve this is you would say, okay, I have one side. I have another side. I'm going to multiply them together, and I times that by the sine of the angle in the middle, and I divide it by 2. That's it. You need the 2 sides and the angle that's in between. So if you throw that into your calculator, what's 52 times 90 times the sine of 102 divided by 2? If you would rather write it like this, guys, if you would rather the 1/2 and then 52 times 90 times the sine of 102, you can do that. I just don't like the 1/2. 2,288.86, 87, something like that. All right, now how do we write area? What is my unit? Meters, and area is always meters what? Squared. Make sure, guys, you will get points off if you don't have your units, if you don't have the measurements right. It's the little stuff. Just pay attention. But tomorrow we'll do the ambiguous case. It's not that hard. It's a little bit more work, but it's just using law of sines to figure out if there's a triangle present, if there's just one, or if there's 2. We good?